Famine in Gaza, a failure of humanity. In Gaza today, survival itself has become a greatest struggle. Entire families search for a scrap of food. Children line up at aid stations hoping for a single meal, and the hospitals overflow with malnourished patients, many of them too weak to cry. The United Nations has officially confirmed that many have feared for months. Famine has taken hold in Gaza City and across large parts of the territory. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has described the crisis as a failure of humanity and a man-made disaster. But how did Gaza reach this point? What does the famine mean for those who are living through it? And why is the international community divided over a crisis so clearly visible to the world? This is a story of famine, war, and the survival in Gaza. The announcement comes from the UN-backed Integrated Food Security Phases Classification, or IPC. The Global Authority on Hunger has placed Gaza City and the surrounding areas at Phase 5 famine level, the most extreme classification of hunger. When children were starving, when war was consuming lives, the thousands, humanity act and did humanity fail? The announcement comes from the UN-backed Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, the Global Authority on Hunger. It placed Gaza City and surrounding areas at Phase 5 famine level, the most extreme classification of hunger. This level means that entire community are experiencing conditions marked by starvation, destitution, and death. Famine no longer have reliable access to food. Survival depends on finding whatever can be eaten: grass, leaves, and or scraps of spoiled flour. According to the IPC, more than 500,000 people are living in catastrophic condition. For them, the crisis is not approaching, it is already arrived. UNICEF, the United Nations Agency for Children, has described the situation as a real child survival crisis. Officials warn that for many children in Gaza, it is already too late. Their bodies are too weak to absorb nutrition, too fragile to fight infections. The images emerging from hospitals confirm that infants barely clinging to life, toddlers with swollen bellies, mothers unable to provide milk for their babies. Life in Gaza has been reduced to desperate search for food. Famine wake up not knowing if they will eat that day. Markets are empty. Prices for whatever little food remains are far beyond reach. A loaf of bread, if it can be found, can cost days of wages. Parents often go hungry so their children can have a few bites. Some families share one meal a day, tea and bread. Bread is unavailable as a survivor on boiled weeds or animal feed. Clean water is equally scarce. Without it, even the little food people find cannot be consumed safely. The combination of hunger, dehydration, and disease creates what the United Nations calls a perfect storm of humanitarian collapse. Hospitals in Gaza already overwhelmed by war. Casualties are now filled with children suffering from malnutrition. Doctors tweeting the reality of watching young patients fade away simply because they lack food. Despite this overwhelming evidence, Israel has rejected the famine declaration. Officials have called the United Nations report an outright lie and insisted that there is no starvation in Gaza. They point to aid trucks that have entered the territory as a proof that supplies are being delivered. But aid agencies and independent observers paint a very difficult picture. They describe convoys being blocked at border crossing, warehouses destroyed by airstrikes, and disparate civilians unable to reach distribution centers due to ongoing fighting. The reality, they say, is that humanitarian aid is not reaching the people who need it most. While famine spread, the war itself continues to escalate. Now, new footage shows Israeli tanks advancing into the Sabra neighborhood of Gaza City, parts of widening ground offensive aimed at seizing control of the city. Airstrikes continued to rain down. In just one night, 37 Palestinians were killed, among them 4 children. Survivors describe entire famine wiped out in single strike, for civilians already weakened by hunger. The violence compounds their suffering. They face not only the threat of starvation, but also the daily risk of bombardment and ground assaults. The numbers are staggering. In the past 24 hours alone, 8 more people have been died of hunger, bringing the famine-related days toll to 281 people, including 114 children. Since October 17, 2023, the conflict has claimed at least 62,622 Palestinian lives, with more than 157,000 wounded. In Israel, 1,139 people were killed and over 200 were taken captive during the Hamas-led attacks that triggered the war. Behind these numbers are human lives, parents bearing their children's famine, searching for massive loved ones, children growing up knowing only war and hunger. The famine in Gaza has provoked outrage across much of the world. Aid agencies call it one of the most severe humanitarian crises of our time. World leaders have urged immediate ceasefire and unrestricted aid delivery. But despite the calls, the blockade and the fighting continues. And the United Nations chief warns that what is happening in Gaza is not a natural disaster or a crisis caused by a drought or a crop failure. It is, he says, an man-made catastrophe. For many observers, Gaza has become a symbol of political deadlock, humanitarian failure, and the cost of war on civilians. As the famine deepens and the war expands, the United Nations warns that the crisis in Gaza is not just about one territory or one people. It is, in their words, a test of our shared humanity. Will the world allow tens of thousands more die of hunger? Will children be left to waste away while politicians and the war continues unchecked? Or will this be the moment when nations act decisively to end the suffering? In Gaza, people wait for food, for safety, for peace. The world watches, aid convoys sit at borders, debates rage in international forums. But for families in Gaza, time is running out. History will ask when famine was declared, when children were starving, when war was consuming lives by thousands. Did humanity act or did humanity fail?